This simple yet very effective recruiting strategy is paying off big time for Florida State here in the 2025 cycle. Will it help the Noles land Mike Norvell's first top 10 recruiting class? Mike Norvell and his Florida State staff have assembled what is currently the number 7th recruiting class in the entire nation, according to On3. But they've used a few new recruiting strategies and done things a little differently this year compared to years prior, including one big one that I think is making a key difference. And I'll tell you guys what that is. But first, if you're watching this, go ahead and do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We try to bring you guys as much content as we can. We jump on here with recruiting updates. We've had some ACC kickoff stuff, conference realignment, all that good stuff. And with the season only weeks away now, we're going to have so much more coming. So definitely hit that subscribe button. All right. So like we said, the Noles currently holding a top 10 class right now. And one thing, maybe the main thing they seem to be doing differently, in my opinion, is just expanding their recruiting map, right? Expanding that arm across the entire country, going into multiple different states to find top talent. This is one of those things that may be controversial on the surface, which I get. I get the sentiment of always wanting to keep in-state talent, wanting to keep Florida kids home. But I looked at the 247 rankings, and only 3 of the 32 5-stars are from the state of Florida. And of those 3, Florida State does have one of those guys in the fold with 5-star offensive lineman Solomon Thomas. And if it makes you feel any better, the other 2 aren't staying in state. One is committed to LSU now, and the other looks to be trending towards Texas. So it's not like you're losing in-state kids to your in-state rivals. Again, you're the only one with a 5-star from the state of Florida. But you look at some of these other kids you have in the fold for 2025, right? Chase Lofton, a 4-star tight end you pulled out of Nebraska. 6'6", by the way, so good grab there. But in the last few weeks, you've also added 3 blue-chip receivers and not one from the state of Florida. Malik Clark being the most recent one coming from South Carolina, Dalen McCutcheon coming all the way from Texas, and C.J. Wiley out of Georgia. Now, I don't look at this as a bad thing at all. I think the 3 receivers I just named are all elite additions, and they're all even a little underrated in my opinion. And I don't care if they come from Alaska as long as they can play ball and fit the culture. Now, don't get me wrong. Of course, they're still heavily recruiting the state of Florida, and they're doing it really well. I mean, I think 6 of their commits are from the state of Florida. Their 2 top commits with Solomon Thomas and Javion Hilson are both Florida kids. But the other 7 they currently have are from all over. But I think that's why we're also seeing a lot less of those kind of head-to-head in-state battles against Miami or Florida. There's definitely still been some. Zay Thomas was one, Vernell Brown, Tramel Jones. And of course, you win some, you lose some, like always. But compared to last year where it seemed like we were battling Miami or UF for almost every recruit we signed, and even the guys like Armando Blunt, who was Miami, then FSU, then Miami, or TJ Abrams, who flipped from FSU to Florida. There's just been a lot less of those types of recruitments this time around, and honestly, it's led to a lower stress cycle in my opinion. Now, I do want to take a second to once again give the staff their flowers right now. We mentioned pulling all these out-of-state kids, so that means you're going up against those in-state schools and still winning out. How often do you hear of a top wide receiver from Texas actually leaving Texas? How often do you pull blue-chip defensive linemen out of the state of Georgia, ones that Georgia is actively recruiting? The staff has pulled that off multiple times in this cycle and with a class that's barely halfway full. To that point, I think a lot of those other states are just catching up talent-wise. Of course, Florida will always be a key state, but I mean, Utah, Ohio, Nevada, Illinois all have a 5-star player. The number 1 player in the entire class is from Mississippi, whereas last year, Jeremiah Smith, the number 1 player, not to trigger anyone, but he was from the state of Florida. Now, maybe the cycle is an anomaly, but if the tide is sort of turning and talent is getting more and more spread out across the country, it's promising to see that this staff will fuel up the jet, so to speak, and go get top guys from wherever they need to. Now, I've talked about this before, and to be honest, I have no idea if these 2 things are related, but FSU recruiting seems to be at least a tad bit more hush-hush this year. Talked about a couple of the surprise commitments that Florida State has had from C.J. Wiley, who literally everyone thought was headed to UGA, and then Malik Clark the other day, a kid out of South Carolina who had a top 4 of Florida State and then 3 schools within like 2 hours of him. No one really expected FSU there either, so they definitely seem to be keeping things under wraps a bit better this cycle, and I think that's part of the reason they're having some more success here. I think in past years, information was a bit too public and sort of left Florida State at a disadvantage, whereas now, any Florida State target could pop at any time and really just be par for the course. Now, definitely don't take this as, don't think that Florida State is taking a lower caliber of player here just because they're going out of state. They actually rank top 6 in average player rating. And like we said, they're a top 7 class right now, but they also have significantly less commits than anyone else. For example, Florida State has 13 commits in a number 7 class, whereas UGA has a number 4 class, but they also have 21 commits. So that just proves that Florida State is taking quality players rather than just loading up on 3 stars. Also on that note, just for added reference, Miami has 19 commits in their class so far, so 6 more than Florida State has, and they're ranked 3 spots lower. So all that being said, will Florida State finish with a top 10 recruiting class for the first time under Mike Norvell? I think so. I think they definitely still have to continue recruiting and close on some guys. Guys like Josh Petty or Usman Chroma, you definitely still need to land. And you can't afford to lose guys. You can't have a meltdown again on signing day. It's definitely time for that to end. So I think they absolutely could. They just need to finish strong. Just like you guys need to finish this video strong and drop a like and hit that subscribe button for me. But in all seriousness, we appreciate you guys tuning in, talking to Florida State recruiting as the Noles are rolling on the trail right now. So I'm sure we'll be back more videos just like this, more commitment videos very soon. If you want to catch up on the other commits from Tribe 25, I have a whole playlist queued up for you guys right here. So definitely check that out, and we'll talk soon. As always, go Noles.